is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Derek Brandale, Jennifer Rolnick.
Whoa, getting into the mentions.
The list.
That's better.
See, you print it, I'll say it.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
We go from Jen to next gen last night.
Wow.
Sammy McKee also on board. You like that segue?
I did.
It's pretty smooth.
Yeah. Good job.
Unlike watching and following the Raptor show with Will Liu with that last guest he had, Tim, who would not shut up, basically.
Yeah, they're not coming on our show. We can savage their guess.
And everybody's freaking out. Our Sammy, who produces this show, isn't even producing that show, and he's like freaking out.
I wasn't freaking out. It's called the producer squirms. And it's something that any other producer of any TV, radio that's listening to this, there probably isn't that many people that they understand. That when a guest
like
is
when
talking,
we talk about an awkward social issue and you're afraid that
correct,
what Kipper's going to say?
That, or
He's going to say us, but
when a guest, they're bad and you know what your hosts are thinking. It's a tough one.
I do like giving him the squirms, though.
I know.
We'll sit around a good hour and a half before this show, and I'm like, Sammy, this is what I'm saying. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. This is what I'm saying. He's like, oh, my God, no, you can't.
I wish that was an overstate.
Well, and every time he says the thing off the air that's going to make you uncomfortable on the air, it takes me like 30 seconds to figure out if he's joking or not. It's like, okay, he is. Okay.
It's been what now? 4 months, 5 months?
We got it dialed now.
I think you got me figured out a little bit here.
I do. We got you dialed in.
Keep me guessing,
for a
Kipper.
few weeks. It was a little perilous, but we're good now.
Well, we're glad everybody's on board here, and especially on our YouTube channel. Thank you for subscribing. Thanks for your comments, your chats, your likes. We love your likes. And wherever you're downloading our podcast or watching and listening, glad you're on board here. The Toronto Maple Leafs last night in that next gen. Before we even get into it, I can't believe I'm going here first, but
Jersey talk. He's going to do
Jersey talk.
Oh, yes.
What'd you think?
I'm okay with it. I'm fine. People like them. We hear that they're selling out, or that's the
number one jersey in the NHL store, U.S. and Canada.
Great. So happy.
Just what the Leafs need, more money.
Will we see those uniforms again this year? Do we know?
I don't know.
It's a one-off.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
The numbers didn't bother you? They didn't pop up enough for me? It's too much of a search.
No.
Just bad eyes?
I think so. Yeah, you have the specs on the tip of the nose.
I will say, I didn't go to the game last night, but I often talk to Joe Bowen when I produce the broadcasts, and he hates numbers like that.
Weren't they white, though? Weren't they white
the-
contrast?
They were
Too thin.
they outlined white,
So black
but
in
they
the
were
middle.
dark.
So I can guarantee Bones he wasn't thrilled about that.
Okay.
I got an email from my mom. She said they were too hard to follow, the jerseys.
There, thank you.
Okay.
I just thought they looked like a different team, which maybe is
So
good.
my generation couldn't follow the numbers. I'm the
Wasn't for
dinosaur. The next were fine.
Yeah.
I got to say, I loved them even more than I thought I would on ice. Like, I thought they looked sharp. I would
totally loved them for a one-off. Like if they were like, "This is the Leafs thirds," I'd be like, "Ugh."
Really?
Yeah,
I would
I
like
would
it to. I would like it to be their alternate.
No,
I'd go that far.
It's not a non-Leafs colors.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: I don't want the NHL turning into the NBA where they have like 17 different jerseys.
Yeah,
The
I already
Leafs have
went through the thing where the
two
Islanders
beautiful
did black and white, and it's like that's not our team. Doesn't work.
Blue and white looks. The Leafs jersey's pretty good. You know,
Yeah, it's nice.
probably just.
It's had some success.
Yeah. Well.
As a jersey.
Yes. Correct.
So, just speaking of our pregame meeting, which has high intensity, we have this old beat up. What is it? CFRB or
680 News.
680 News.
Putting mat.
We found a putting mat
Yeah.
where you plug it in and you putt, and the ball retreats back. Except this one started smoking the other day.
Oh yeah.
It's got to be at 20 years old. This thing.
I don't want to like pre-damn us if this ever happens, but if there's a small fire on the third floor,
Go find that putter. Go find that thing.
yeah.
But here comes JD Bunkus visiting us just a little before our show, and it took you guys all but like 7 seconds to start ripping on his jacket. which I'm fine with. I love that stuff.
It's a squirrel suit. If he jumps off a top of a mountain, he can just float on down.
So my point in all of this is if you're ripping on JD's jacket today, what were you saying about Justin Bieber's jacket last night? Like if someone
totally different.
if someone pushed this guy in Lake Ontario, he ain't drowning. Okay? That's the good news. That's the only extent I could see wearing a jacket like that to a game.
Yeah, but if I walk in here wearing a meat suit, you're going to act different than if Lady Gaga does it. So, Biebs has got some. He's
Biebs is cool.
I liked the jacket that he had on last night, and you're right.
I did too.
He's Justin Bieber. He can wear whatever he wants, and I think it's cool.
And how about everybody falling over him all after the game? Did you see him get escorted into the dressing room?
Well, it's Justin Bieber, as he should.
Is he one of the 10 most famous people on earth? I have no idea.
Did you see Brendan Shanahan waiting for him in the dressing room?
No.
My Jen, not your Jen. And he was like,
well,
he acted like the next Jen.
I bet your kids are pro Bieber.
Okay, all right.
I got to be honest. I would be extremely starstruck.
Did you see Sean McKenzie's post-game interview with Mrazek?
No.
Oh, same thing. It's like, Justin Bieber's here. Yeah. I wanted Petr Mrazek to go, hey, Sean, you want to go get his autograph? I'll wait here for you.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a take that I didn't expect to have about Bieber, and I'm going to do it right now. But one of the reasons that Austin Matthews is as big a star as he is, because you saw the way all the other players were interacting with Bieber. They're kind of kind of talking, having these kind of weird, awkward conversations. Keith was kind of having this weird, awkward conversation. And Austin Matthews walks up to Bieber and just grabs him, puts his arm around him, holds on to him, and it's like he's any other person. And I honestly feel like Matthews thinks he's just as big a star as Justin Bieber. So I truly think he thinks it is.
There's
mine.
a fame relevance they share.
Yes.
Let me get this straight.
Yeah.
When the Leafs lose in the first round,
here we go.
And Justin and Austin go to an MMA fight 4 days after.
Sour.
Will ESPN recognize Austin Matthews this time around?
Yeah.
They have the rights. They better pretend to. Yeah.
He does not get any love at all.
He's the new Lids ambassador. He just got another deal. This guy's becoming.
That's fine, but in the States, you look more like his security guard.
He's gonna break through. He's gonna break through.
This is the year down south they'll recognize Austin Matthews with Justin.
I like that. It's a good theory.
Okay.
Should talk hockey?
Let's talk hockey. We can do that, right?
I mean, if you want to keep doing Bieber, I'm good.
A very convincing 3-2 win last night.
You sound less than convinced.
You okay? Listen, they got the job done.
Yeah.
Mrazek got the job done. Mark Giordano got the job done. Everyone seems to be happy. At least it's a game where, once again, it alleviated some pressure moving forward.
I'm embarrassed to say how much better I feel about the Leafs today after a win over the Devils.
Really?
I don't know necessarily why that is. I just thought that they really limited the Devils. I know the Devils suck, but they have some guys that can play.
They score.
And they're fast.
They're fast, but I thought they did a good job against their top guys. And I thought Mark Giordano, which we'll get into here, I know the Devils, like I've said, they're not the best team, but he looked a lot more like Mark Giordano than I was expecting him to look. Is that fair?
Should we start with Giordano and go through the clips? And because I agree, this is he's talking point A.
Okay, 18 minutes and 38 minutes in his debut. And let's go to Sheldon Keefe. What he'll start is Kyper's Clippers.
All right.
Like you talk about his comfort level, my comfort level was high. When he was out there and puck got on his stick, things seemed to settle down. You can just tell he's a veteran. He knows how to play. He, despite coming in, new teammates, new city, new system, all those kind of things, he's just confident and moving pucks, defending, getting in people's way. So I really liked his play tonight.
We all saw Bieber and talked about being starstruck. Keefe talked about Giordano like he was Bieber. He was like talking about your comfort level or his. Like, I felt great with him out there. I don't know if you saw the press conference, but he was smiling the whole time he was talking. He was just like having him out there. I just felt comfortable.
And there is a calming influence. There's no question about that. And you sensed it. And that's one of those games too against New Jersey. And New Jersey wants to play fast. and their numbers suggest that they're one of the better teams, right, off the rush.
Yeah. Yeah, they're quick up and down the rink.
So it would have been easy for the Leafs to kind of get caught up in that and want to maybe exchange some chances. We didn't necessarily see that. And all I thought to myself watching this game is if you took out Mark Giordano and you put back in Travis Dermott, would there have been the same kind of calm feeling? And we know the answer to that.
Of course. Oh, yeah, totally different. He said something. I don't know if he said it or we talked about it, Sammy, but the idea of having another adult on the ice.
Correct.
Like just having a grown-ass adult who knows how to, I'm not worried about my own stats or my ice time or whatever. It's not time to go for a rush and try to get my, talk about cookies. He's not a cookie monster. And a lot of times he broke up plays with his stick at the line. I just, with 20 seconds to go, over the board.
Weren't the Leafs supposed to be all over that and outgrown that and ready to win a Stanley Cup?
In theory.
We still need one more grown-up, though.
We got 19 games, so we'll figure it out. But 20 seconds left, 1-goal game, Gio goes over the boards. He's a guy that they want to see on the rink in those situations. It's nice to have those guys. Remarkably similar players statistically to Muzzin, and I think in the past we've said you can't have too many of those type of guys. So great start for Mark Giordano.
Just something about Giordano can we talk about quickly? The penalty.
The non-penalty.
The penalty that was turned into he got taken out of the box. How many times have you seen that?
Do they reverse the call if that's Kadri? Or, if it's anyone else in the league other than Mark Giordano?
It's in his debut. They bet a lot of money.
I really thought that made the officials look really stupid.
I agree.
See, in general, I want them to get the call right. Like, if they get it wrong, they confer. But it was still a subjective call. They didn't go back and get it right. They just changed a subjective call, which that doesn't look good.
Those type of changes or video egregious misses.
Yeah,
that's what it's
they're for.
It's not for that call.
I agree.
And if it's reversed, if it goes against the Leafs, if Jersey wins on a power play goal off of that play, this is a huge story. And it's blown up beyond belief. Mm-hmm. But it's not. But that can't happen ever again.
No.
Whether or not you think that the stick is either making contact.
And it did. It hit his skate.
He did. He knocked him off stride.
That's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough. That just should never have been reversed. It
shouldn't have been a call,
so
then
bad.
It shouldn't have been reversed. Yeah. All of the above. I'm with you.
It makes the officials look bad. That's all.
I really feel like it being Giordano played into that. First game in Toronto, they're like, we
believe you.
Yeah. Well,
you're apple pie.
If Mark says it.
You've never swore before.
It is funny.
You're the nicest guy ever in the league. We believe you. No penalty. Come on out.
It is a love fest. Everyone trying to do right by each other. Sorry.
Phoebe's here. Come on out of the box.
They even put Gio
Buy a jersey.
They put him in the starting lineup. Did you like that? Nice little.
Loved it.
Yeah. Why not, eh?
We do know this is the right organization for that.
Right. They'll do those things to the players. And Sheldon Keefe weighed in on the decision to put him in the starting lineup.
Now it's a starting lineup. I just it's a bit of a welcome home for him. It's a great opportunity for the fans to acknowledge him. He's as much as he's coming here to play for the Leafs and all that, he's also a local guy that has had a very accomplished career. So I think it's a pretty special moment, and not surprised that our fans recognize that. Obviously, we have a very intelligent fan that knows what's happening, and they acknowledge that. So I was happy that he had that moment.
What's going to be interesting here moving forward is the pairings and how they can stay consistent. Muzzin still has to come back. Mm-hmm. Where does that move everybody in the pecking order? We know Morgan Riley, whoever he's with, gets anointed the number one pair.
Right.
But after that, it gets kind of a little tricky here on who's considered in your top four, who's in the bottom pair, how much ice time, who sees what matches up. They kind of look all the same after you get by Riley.
Yeah, and I think you really like that. Dubas mentioned that in his press conference that he wanted to have three pairs they could put over the boards and feel like they don't have to protect anyone and no one's sheltered. when Muzzin comes back, that bumps Liljegren, and you got 6 PK guys right now. Riley and Labushkin kill, Brody and Hall kill, Muzzin and Giordano all kill penalties. Like anyone can go at any time. I think that's a really good spot. You're rarely as healthy as in that scenario, but and Liljegren was pretty good.
I'm sorry, who said that?
I know.
No.
You didn't think so?
No, I'm just shocked that those words came out of your mouth.
I mean, I thought
you've been dumping on him from day one, and
I have been dumping on him that he's not a fit, not that he can't play.
I'm going to see if you can keep a straight face when we hear from Mark Giordano. I'm playing with the Liljegren right now.
All right.
I was really impressed playing with him. I mean, he's for a young guy, he's got super poise with the puck. He makes really, really good decisions out there. You don't really get a sense of how complete his game is on TV. I thought he was really impressed. I was really impressed with positioning and all the little plays he makes. So hopefully we build. If we stay together, we keep building and go from there.
Did you keep a straight face?
I had a couple winces. Are you complete game, good decisions?
Are you questioning whether Mark Giordano had the center ice package in Seattle or not?
I am not questioning whether he's a savvy vet or not, because he knows to big up the young guy that he's paired with, give him confidence, right? Like Giordano knows what he's doing. But I did think that it was stabilizing for Liljegren, who skates well. My whole complaint has been that in the playoffs, I don't see, like, you have to shelter and protect him from the D zone. I just don't see where it fits. But in a game like last night with Giordano, okay.
I would know 100% that if Liljegren's listening to this show and hearing those comments outside of yours for the whole season, that's going to build up his confidence alone.
Right.
With a guy like that stands up and looks the world in the eye and says, I'm really impressed with his game. That alone should build up a lot of confidence in the lily pad.
I agree. The Giordano thing is going to be interesting because you want to keep Leafs fans' expectations reasonable, but to be aware that he can be an impactful player. Like, nice start, saying the right things. I guess we'll start there, and don't give him too much too soon, but nice start for the guy.
Yeah, like I said up to kick off the conversation, he looked way more like what I remember Mark Giordano looking like than I was expecting him to.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he had a good impact on the game, and I thought he had a good defensive stick. Just did right things.
Yeah,
and they've
had him out there in
that.
PP2. He made a nice shot for a tip at one point. Made a couple of nice plays. So
Sheldon Keefe also played a hunch along your hunch a few shows ago on Mrazek starting last night against the Devils. I said no. You said yes. Good enough for you to move forward. Got the job done.
My theory at the time was that should be an easier game. We got a non-playoff team on a back-to-back with travel. You should be able to get him a win, get feeling good about his game, and that did come to fruition. He only gave up 2 goals. I still thought he looked terrible.
Okay.
I did. I don't know about you. Do you guys like his game?
Let's go to Sheldon Keefe. We'll listen to Keefe. We know your comments. We'll go to Keefe's, and then we'll pick it up.
All right.
I thought he looked really good. I thought he looked calm, confident. Tough game. You only get a few shots in that first period, not a lot of work, and a couple of the shots you got were tough saves there. And then all of a sudden, in the second period, things turned, and there was a lot more really good looks for them. But I thought he looked really good. That was a great step for him.
Compared to what we've seen in the past, he's 100% correct.
You thought so?
Well, just going from what we've seen to what we saw last night.
Yeah. Compared to an actual house fire, the bonfire was okay.
You're 100% right.
Yeah.
So maybe it is in my mind that I'm comparing it off of what he looked like in other games this year. But I thought that last night, what they were talking about the reset with him and like, this is a new chance. It's a new start. You cleared waivers, blah, blah, blah. No one wanted you. I really do think he at least looked way calmer. You don't agree? Like
I just
he just feel like he was flying around way less.
I mean, maybe it's less, but he just makes himself so small so often. And like on pushes, there's one in particular I have in my mind where he pushed across, they shot it back to his blocker side, and he's trying to get small enough to let the puck in, but it gets a piece of him and goes out. Like, I just thought everything went well. The one gets weirdly tipped through his legs. The other, he's on his belly, swimming the, freestyle 50 meter. I don't know. For me, though, you got him the win. He only gave up 2. You get to play him again and, try to build him back to a goaltender you can use.
And the damage that he's done in terms of losing confidence either in teammates or management or the city or the fans, you're not making up against a non-playoff team
but you can
on a
fall
back-to-back. Yes, there's everything to lose and minimal to gain.
Yeah.
And he did what he needed to do to pick up that next start, either Saturday night or Sunday against Florida.
Yeah.
But that's not enough for us to see.
What do you had, 20 shots, 4 in the first period?
22 shots.
Something like 22.
New Jersey's a team that wants to play really fast.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't think they were necessarily sharp.
I found they made a lot of the errors the Leafs can be guilty of at times, of like pushing on offense, and that led to the shorthanded chances.
A lot of similarities.
Yeah.
They're fast. They want to play fast. You look at the game-winning goal, Engvall's game-winning goal.
Mm-hmm.
Just watch how fast they want to gain the zone.
Yeah.
To the point where 3 Devils overskate the puck.
Same on the Mikheyev goal.
Right?
Exact same thing.
And this is where the Leafs are guilty too. When I watch them, is you can't play the game 1,000 miles an hour all the time.
Right.
And this is where maybe Mark Giordano can come in and calm things down and actually slow the pace down every once in a while.
Yeah. You know who does not play fast anymore? PK Subban. No disrespect to a guy who's had a great career, but that Mikheyev goal, I know Mikheyev is fast, but Sammy and I watched it back. Subban has a head start on him and is ahead of him, and before Mikheyev even starts going the other way, he barely gets a stick on him. Like, I don't want to say he can't skate anymore, but like in the NHL,
foot speed's an issue.
He's slowed down considerably.
He has, and Mikheyev, that's a goal he would never have scored in November.
Or last year, not a prayer.
He is
shoots it.
He is really figuring it out, how to kind of match the hands with the speed. He's going so fast, and to be able to pull Dawes off the post and go around him isn't quick hands. It's how fast he's skating.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When you're moving that fast, if he can at least hold the goalie a second, make the goalie freeze a little bit, going across the net, and I think I said it on this show that like him taking the puck across the net has been the biggest evolution to his offensive game. At least open the goalie up. If it doesn't go in, it should leave something around the crease. Lot to like about Mikheyev. By the way, sorry, the third line is giving me hope for the Leafs in playoffs. Like
me too.
Like Gord, Coleman, Gaudreau, those Tampa Bay guys. Could you get some goals out of this group in playoffs?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like him to play a little edgier, though.
Oh, sure.
If you want to put them up against Coleman and Gaudreau, you can't put them in the same sentence unless you see somebody out there willing to get their noses a little dirtier than they have. Mm-hmm. And I'm not taking anything away from them, but that's
all three of Kampf,
they
don't do it.
They don't do that.
Yeah.
They'll outwork you, or they'll outcycle you, or they can lean on you to pick up a puck. But when leaning isn't enough and they got to ramp it up or one up you, I don't know if they can do that yet.
No argument for me on that. That is a shortcoming. But if we're sitting here on May 6th and the Leafs got some surprise goal from a Max Talbot type guy, someone at the bottom of the lineup, you could easily see this line coming through with a shorty or some rush goal.
Absolutely, which would probably make Sammy cry the day he drives Mikheyev to the airport.
Yeah, I will. I'm going to be crying that whole drive.
You didn't have 2 months ago. You wanted to drive him to the airport next year, and now you got to be thinking a little differently. He's turned himself into a pretty important guy.
Yeah, it was always the lack of finish for me, and the lack of not even finish, just like awareness. He'd always take the bad wrister from the half boards, or he'd beat the wrister straight into a guy's arm or into his pad or right into his chest. His ability, like Bourne has talked about, to take it across the goalie has really changed his ability to score. And guys are respecting that more now, so they're giving him the cheat side a little bit more. He's really worked on his game, and credit to him. But this is a different guy than we were seeing in the last couple of years. Like his ability to score has really, really improved. And that was always my complaint with him. Like, sure, he's flying around doing stuff, but his awareness and his ability to score was never there like it is now.
And now his agent is tweeting the "Show me the money" gift from Jerry Maguire.
Milstein just clipped what I said, and he's like, yeah.
The other guy
4, please.
that may have not scored a goal like last night, shorthanded, Engvall. And I didn't exactly see a $9.5 million defensive play by Dougie Hamilton on that play, by the way.
Yeah, where was he going?
I do
treated
not know.
Engvall like he was up against Connor McDavid. You want to panic and go down like that against Connor McDavid?
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
Engvall.
Just stand in front of him, Doug.
or how about this? Just let him shoot on the goalie who's already lined up that angle.
Goalie knows he's there. It's like the NBA equivalent of a long two. Let him have that one.
Take the most dangerous guy still, according to the salary cap, was Willie Nylander down there. You take away that pass, and you've done your job.
You know, D on those slides, if I'm not mistaken, they're supposed to slide to the short post so they don't hit the goaltender and they whatever. Old Dougie was going off into the corner for a little. I mean, great play by Pierre to read it. No, not taking anything away from the play, but not the greatest defensive effort.
Okay, I want to pick up this conversation a little bit on the third line here. And you're great on it, but where is the second line? And who is the second line, by the way?
Has to have Kasha on it, but that means he has to play.
Is there still not a concern about getting Wee Willie going here? Tavares.
When he's going, right?
God, that's quick. No, it's a really important point too.
Who is the second line right now?
You know, I hear the conversations about great duos around the league, and McDavid and Draisaitl have, played together and loved it, and then got split up to give Oilers more of a threat. Sid and Gino, I know both of them play center, but they make sure those guys are on separate lines till they need them. I just can't help but feel Matthews and Marner are the two best play drivers for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't know that they need to be on the same line to optimize the Leafs' talent. I feel like they might be better utilized if you give Mitch to Tavares.
I think he needs him.
Yeah. And then you have, to me, Kasha is the other guy who, on the other side, who can go. Bunting can go get pucks. Kasha can worker. You kind of have the worker be on the line in both cases, but Kerfoot for me is not been
it's
good
just
enough.
far too long now for especially Willie Nylander to not have more intensity in his game.
Like he still shoots it in the net at the same pace, I think. Is he not point per game or something?
But
where is he at?
It's those moments when he's not shooting it in there that you want him to at least be able to still influence the game when he's out there.
I know.
And that's the part that's not happening.
What's frustrating is like how he was amazing in playoffs, and then in those games he was awesome the start of the year, and you can see it. He has these runs where he's this guy where you're like, that's the guy. And life happens. You never know what guys are going through and ups and downs and whatever. But yeah, you're trying to find that version of him. What's nice is it's there for a ceiling.
I think there's a good chance we're going to see a little bit of a change on the lines this weekend.
Yeah.
And the other one that's struggling for me, I don't know about you guys, but Bunting. Bunting has not had a good week.
No?
No.
I guess I haven't thought about him. Has it been bad play or just not as good as it?
Yeah, just not as influential when he's on the ice. I don't see I see him overhandling the puck. I see him losing some
games.
I see some lost battles. And we saw Sheldon Keefe just prior to last night move him off the big line.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just something to keep an eye on too. And you also got to protect Bunting a little bit here too.
From burnout,
never done it before, calming him down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Too much. You got to maybe back him off a little bit here too, because it's a grind. You want to be a top player on a top line, on a top team and bring it every night. It's a big ask for a guy. You weren't sure if you were going to give him a one-way or two-way contract.
So, yeah, if there's one line, there's two lines that they don't want to break up, right? The third line and the first line. They've been very hesitant to break those up. But I think that there's Mikheyev, the way he's looked in the last 2 weeks, is a guy that you would probably be the first guy that you would insert into the top 6.
It's a good point. Yeah, well, can Mikheyev get a look there, and then Kasha when he comes back and go back in the third line?
But I think they've tried Willie with Tavares and Mikheyev before in the past, though, haven't they? I think they've done it before.
Yeah, I do believe they've had looks.
Mikheyev's another guy.
And Bunting's had looks with Tavares and Nylander too.
Mikheyev's another guy who doesn't work off his line mates. He doesn't you don't see a lot of tic-tac-toes and small plays. Like he does everything on his own.
Chip it up the boards too,
Kapanen was like that.
You chip it up the boards, he goes flying.
Yeah, like Kapanen, if you put him on the first line with Matthews or the fourth line with nobody, he'll score 15 goals that season. He'll kill a penalty. He'll do the exact same thing because he doesn't use his line mates. And Mikheyev is not a knock. It's a stylistic thing. Mikheyev is a guy that doesn't really matter who he plays with. He does the same thing regardless. Kasha can make some plays. He can make some... You know, we saw him playing with Willie, and scoring some goals. Three straight games he scored in before he was out. So just hope he comes back and can give him 2 months in May and June.
All right, 2 shorthanded goals last night. Their 10 shorthanded goals this season are the most in the NHL, and most in a season since 2005-2006 when they scored 14. I have never seen a team as dangerous as this team shorthanded.
It reminds me of Bergeron and Marchand on the penalty kill.
Let's listen to Sheldon Keefe describe his penalty kill.
Speed, tenacity. It's a pressure kill. So we're applying pressure. We're putting people in bad spots, and our guys anticipate very well. It's all things that Dean talks about. And then, it's the instincts of the players, the speed to close quickly, and then the skill level to make plays and finish plays. So I was obviously huge today. I mean, we gave up 1 officially on the kill, but really it was 2. I don't think Austin was back in the play, but when that second one went in, but 2 huge goals, shorthanded to make up for it. And those shorthanded goals are a big momentum swingers. And obviously, that one Engvall's goal, double minor. I think there's 7.5, 8 minutes, whatever it is left in the third there, double minor in a tie game. Put your team in a tough spot there. And PK was excellent. I don't know if we gave up a scoring chance and then had a couple of our own and made good on one. So I really like that and made up for the fact, that our power play obviously wasn't good tonight.
I'll tell you how good their PK is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching sometimes their lackluster 5-on-5, and I'm thinking to myself, this would be a good time to take a penalty.
So when they're shorthanded, they get almost a quarter of the scoring chances, like 23%. It's the first in the NHL by a long shot. So, incredible numbers. When Ilya Mikheyev is on the ice, 43% of the scoring chances shorthanded are for the Leafs. They're as likely to score that way.
Really?
Yeah, it's first in the NHL by miles.
That's an amazing stat.
Yeah, there are guys at 5-on-5 whose numbers aren't that good. So
their PK is so dangerous.
Yeah, and fifth it's keeping pucks out too.
Okay, this is my kind of whole theory on this too.
All right,
okay,
bring it around.
Is that I watch the penalty kill, and everybody thinks it's not about killing it off. It's not about icing. Mm-hmm. It's about getting the opportunity to go score a goal.
Sure, sniff it out.
And you can see it. And for the most part, it's been very successful. Their numbers are great. And I think it just speaks to the whole philosophy of this Toronto Maple Leaf team.
I agree.
From first to fourth line, from first pair to third pair, that everybody believes every time you're on the ice, we can score a goal.
Yeah.
And that's good, but it can also be your worst nightmare as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think if they can just mature a little bit to just pick their spots a little better, and maybe this is where Gio can come in and calm that down and be one of those guys that says you don't have to feel like you got to go score a goal every shift.
Yeah, if you have Gio and Muzzin and Riley and Lyubushkin who wants to stay home, you should have some guys back. It shouldn't be 2-on-1s.
Why not go for it every penalty kill? I mean, your goals are going to go in the net on the power play regardless. if you're set up, if you're like, I think there's
They
going
were
to be
24th last year. They're 5th.
there's a
Do
certain.
you remember the majority of the season when we're watching these bad pinches and these odd man rushes?
Yeah, but on
and
the
they're-
penalty kill, Kip, it's different because it's the percentages of the puck going
I'm
in the
okay.
net.
Yeah, I'm not knocking it. I'm not knocking it. I'm just talking about a bigger picture here.
Yeah.
Of a mindset.
I'll buy that a little more.
I'm just taking the mindset that you have on the penalty kill and how it just bleeds into everything. And
That's interesting.
You can't always feel like this shift we have to score. And I think that can kind of it should be different for the first line, the second line, the third line, and the fourth line. Not everybody should have an equal philosophy of, hey, if I get a break, I'm going, I'm jumping.
You know, I've always thought with Team Canada, if you could build 4 first lines, what's the point in having a fourth line? You know, what's the point in like stuff stylistically, like having a grinder line, a dump and chase line, whatever. Just have a first line that goes and plays at the other end of the rink and outscores the opposition. And I think that's the philosophy here. They think that if their fourth line can be more likely to score than get scored on, that's all they're asking them to do. They don't need them to play a certain way. Now, you can definitely argue that it doesn't work in the NHL and the salary cap when you're paying guys $750,000. It's a different sort of team building. But I think the philosophy is one that's the idea. Can our fourth line score more than their fourth line? Then we should win the game when they're on the ice.
So Blackwell comes in, didn't look out of place, could score. He's heavy on his skates. He's not. He's 5'9", but he looks sturdy. He looks like a little fire plug out there.
Yep.
I think he's got a chance to really help, and I'm glad that they've started him on the fourth line. Would he get looks moving up the lineup? Yeah, but maybe down the road. Doesn't have to be last night against New Jersey.
Yeah.
So, can I just go back to the penalty kill with
Yeah,
you guys?
Yeah.
And I think a huge part of it is personnel. And he alluded to it in that clip talking about the guys that we have. But Marner's anticipation and ability to read passes and knock stuff out of midair and go the other way and make transition passes and stuff. Like, I don't think there's a lot of teams that have the personnel. And Mikheyev's really good at that too. I think Camp's good at it too.
You don't want to mess around with the puck high in the zone.
Yeah, but they have the guys. I think they wouldn't play like this if they didn't have the personnel they do. And since they do, that's why they do it. Is there something to that? Am I making sense?
We know Sheldon. It's built on the skill and the speed, and they're not shy about going for it. I just think that when it comes to tougher games down the stretch here, and to win 4 rounds for a Stanley Cup, you gotta pull the reins on that philosophy at times and do it with the right guys. You're right, Marner, green light all day long.
He was unbelievable.
He's
again last night.
unbelievable every night.
Like, but the penalty kill, his cardio is out of control. I can't believe how hard he skates for so long.
I feel like I've always believed as a coach, when you get handled a roster, you don't just get to play or coach the way you want your team to play. You have to coach to your roster's strengths, right? And I asked Barry Trotz this once and on a show once upon a time, and he said that everywhere he coached, he played a different forecheck based on the ability of that roster. And so I think with the Leafs, you're right, Sam. You're like, okay, you got Mitch Marner. We're going to go. We're going to cheat a little bit. We're going to let our guys hedge. I don't think if you ask them to sag and just block shots, it's going to be as effective. So makes sense for the Leafs.
Do you see any scenario in the Stanley Cup playoffs where Blackwell, Spezza, and Simmons are your fourth line?
And you're in trouble if it is. So I'm looking at Blackwell's time on ice.
Played 5 last night.
What's that?
Simmons played 5 minutes last night.
So time on ice for Blackwell over his last 5 games, 4 in Seattle. 16, almost 17 minutes, 15 and a half, 16, 15, 8:21 he played last night. Like, this isn't who he's been in Seattle or anywhere, really. So I do think it was more a matter of just, like, get him acclimated, keep expectations low.
Yeah.
You know, they did talk about making room for him to play up the lineup, so I think that's going to happen.
The other interesting thing here to keep an eye on, too, is I'm watching Jason Spezza, because he's got now 19 games to go, and he needs 10 points for 1,000. Am I right?
Correct.
That is, like, don't tell me that's not in the back of his mind.
Think so?
Is oh my God, that's a huge milestone.
It is.
1,000 points is huge. And I know
Got to get hot here.
yeah, he's got to go on, and I don't know if he can do it on the fourth line. I know he'll get some looks maybe on a second power play.
Do you
Or
think he gets frustrated he doesn't get a shot at that second line there with Spezza and Willie?
I would think he
Willie
would.
and JT?
Yeah, I think he would.
He goes, guys, we're dying there. Like, I've scored 1,000 points. Maybe, give me a couple of runs. You know what's interesting
He's
is
got
I've
20
been,
points all year.
Yeah, I know. I've been
don't
messing
think-
around with time on ice while we're on the show here just to see who's playing what. It is interesting. The Bunting only plays like 16 a night. Matthews and Marner are playing 22, and I know they're on the power play, but it's a big swing. So he is their left winger, but he's not out there over the boards every time with them. Sheldon's conscious of that.
He's not the biggest, heaviest guy. He's not like physically, he's not a horse,
He's no Colin Blackwell.
right?
Right.
No Matthew Nyes.
Oh, I was
Yeah.
going to say, you took the word out of
Oh,
it.
yeah. I keep forgetting that the Savior's on the way.
We
Yeah.
got little Buddhas on the line here.
Oh, yeah.
He better be in the lineup in about 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks. Okay, we're going to take a quick break here. Aaron Ward, former NHLer, Stanley Cup winner. He's going to join us, regular contributor here on the Real Kyper and Bourne show. We'll have a lot of fun with him. And in the second hour, Brian Boucher, former NHL goalie, hockey analyst on ESPN. All right, you're watching on our YouTube channel, Sportsnets, and listening on the Sportsnet 590 The Fan. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back after this.
Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Waiting on Aaron Ward. He'll join us momentarily. Also going to give out tickets later on, aren't we, Sammy?
Yeah, bud. We give out tickets every day.
Sammy's like
Every
the ticket
day?
fairy. Just drops
When
them
did that
off all
happen?
around Toronto.
We'll do it. We'll do it later.
We got Wardo.
Wardo's there.
Aaron Ward joining us. Stanley Cup winner. Puck tracking technology at its finest. Technolog.
What a transition.
How are you, Wardo?
I'm good. I've, I mean, we're in the doldrums of, March now? Waiting for playoffs to happen? So what are we talking about today?
Well, big story, the Leafs pickup of Mark Giordano and what a veteran D-man like him could bring into the lineup. Love to get your thoughts.
Well, I think it kind of goes along the lines of Simmons and Spezia. You get veterans who are wanting to be there, right? Ideally, you got a guy at a stage of his career where he has still a fair amount to offer. I think what he brings to this lineup is stability. We've got so much criticism kind of volleyed towards the decor of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I think Giordano is almost a deflection of all that attention on the decor. Although clearly you got some injuries in the back end, it's almost that refreshing feeling, right? So most teams, when you're going into the playoff run, you hope you get an endorsement from the organization that there's a belief in your team that you're going to get something done, so they bring in a key piece. So I think Giordano clearly, with his past experience and leadership that he's had in Calgary and his short stint in Seattle, should be both a mental boost to that locker room and a presence on the ice.
Wardo, one thing I think we struggle to quantify with numbers these days is space. Like, good defenders really never give shooters a lot of room. They're close to them. They're tight. Not Giordano is that for me. It doesn't feel like when he plays defense, anyone has long stretches of time with the puck. He really closes gaps quickly. First off, do you have any sort of numbers? Does that exist in this new age world? And just your thought on Giordano as someone who closes space in the D zone.
Okay, so one of the things, yesterday we're sitting in our headquarters in Durham, North Carolina, and we're sitting down with ESPN, and ESPN's trying to figure out different ways to present these types of data. And they were asking about the same idea of space and really essentially Shane Kelly, who's the heads up our data science office in Toronto, was talking about the fact that how you gauge some of the offensive abilities, you flip it the other way, is when you talk about spaces, do they get the opportunities in the key areas, home plate? We call it the key at SMP, but generally referred to as home plate. Do they get the quality shots off? Now, for me, the way I made up for my lack of ability to close was positionally. I always try to position myself in the shot lane. I tried to block it. For guys like Giordano, I always think of one of his greatest assets when I watched him play in Calgary, why he was so tough to play against. His body positioning is one thing, but he's got an amazing stick to not only just, even the position of your stick as a forward as you're going down, you're taking a guy wide. You can prevent a guy from making a pass just by presenting an obstacle of his stick. Giordano is so good physically, even at his age right now, getting himself up in that possession area of a guy, stick handling up in that area. He has a confidence in his play. So that's exactly it. For me, Giordano is the type of guy that he competes, but he has the ability to really take away your options, whether it's being in the shot lane, whether it's taking your time to get your head up to make a play. That is one of his greatest assets. And I think that's everybody's discounting, he's up there in age. Here's the deal. Number doesn't matter if you still accomplish it. If he's still the guy that's still able to do all those things you saw 2-3 years ago, I don't care how old you are. If you get the job done, that's what really essentially matters.
And this is the reason why teams like Washington or the Islanders hang on to a guy like Chara, or Chelios is able to go into his 40s.
Yeah, so I always say, so you look at defensemen. So currently in Montreal, they have a really young core group of guys. Part of what happens is the tough part for young guys is baptism by fire. You don't know anything about your opponent. You come into a league, and some of the skill sets you kind of accrue or learn is the experience of playing against certain guys. You know what their tendencies are. And so when you get older guys who have that Rolodex in their mind of almost being able to tell you what a guy's about to do before he even decides to do it, because he's seen them repeatedly do the same things over and over and over, you can get to a place and get yourself in position to be able to confront them. That's the amazing part of, like, I got to the point where I just couldn't at 37. I physically could not get to the places I need to get to. It's always amazing to see the guys that outlast the numbers of age that can get it done. I mean, it's a testimony to, Chris Chelios used to sit a bike in the sauna and bike away at 42 years old and go for 20 straight minutes. And I didn't even want to get on the bike for 20 minutes in the actual weight room because I just didn't want to do it. This guy had some clear dedication to the game. So, yeah, it is a testimony to being able to not only physically be able to do it at an upper age, but the know-how. It's, again, the innate ability to know where to be at the right time.
Yeah, man, I'm 39. I can't mow my lawn without a bad back for 3 days. I don't understand how guys do it at the NHL level, getting smashed around into the upper 30s. When I watched that game last night for the Leafs, I see a third line that's just effective, so effective that they don't want to break it up. Like, they're looking at their second line and they're falling behind. They're going, we got to deal with that because the third line is so good. In your experience in watching Stanley Cup teams and teams that go deep in playoffs, that seems like an essential ingredient, that depth line that can contribute some random goals and be effective in their own end. Do you think that the Leafs have one here that fits that mold?
So, yeah, I think I said it like 2 months ago. There's something about Engvall for me that I just love the guy. I don't know what it is that he does. I don't think he gets the accolades he deserves, but show me an NHL team that won the Stanley Cup in the last 5-6 years that hasn't been a roll your type, just the ability to roll every single line. And third line, honestly, if you think about it, generally your top line cancels out top line. You've got guys that key on your top line. Where you can find those intangibles around the National Hockey League come playoff time, that is where you're successful. And even look at, the fourth line in New York, the Clutterbucks and the Matt Martins and help me again on the third, the guy who played rugby.
Cizikas.
Cizikas. Like, depth is where you have to find that second level, right? If you think about what took out Toronto, I know it's going to be a sour story, but you think of what took out Toronto last year was not the top lines in Montreal. It was the Eric Stahl, Corey Perry, and Joel Armia. That line was what finally got the team traction midway through that series. They were able to control the puck. They were getting offensive chances, and it more or less kind of created an example for the rest of the team on how to play. And so where you find your depth in the playoffs is essentially, the John Bruce, the guys that you don't expect to be the key contributors, why teams go on runs.
We're speaking with former National Hockey Leaguer Aaron Ward, currently working with the NHL player in puck tracking. When we look at what we think might be the defense core for the Toronto Maple Leafs once Muzzin comes back, you assume that wherever Riley is, it's the first pair. But after that, you got guys that are making $5 million in the second or third pair. Have you ever played on a team, Wardo, where you've looked at your position on the blue line and go, am I the second pair or am I on the third pair?
Well, actually, so if you think about 2006, right? So we won a Stanley Cup run. Can you guys even name me four of the guys on D back then?
No.
Carolina, right?
Glenn Wesley.
Glenn Wesley. Wesley.
There's one.
Wesley.
Commodore.
Wesley.
Google says.
Commodore.
Commodore.
Okay, I'll give it to you. So we had basically a motley crew of defensemen. So it was Caberly and I, Frank Caberly and I. It was Hedeken and Commodore, Wesley and
Brett.
Nick Wally.
I forgot Brett. Yes.
Okay, but that's the point, right? It's inevitably, if you can find consistency, that you don't have a wide variance in how your team plays. If you've got guys that can generally play at the same level, it's actually, I'd say, easier for your forwards to consistently have to adapt to the same guys, knowing you don't have one guy that maybe when he's on the ice you have to clear out room for him because he's going end to end. Generally, all 6 guys had to jump up in the play and support. We didn't have an offensive powerhouse, and we didn't really have a defensive liability. So when you say, did you ever play for a team that you weren't sure if you could be 1 or 3, depending on if Laviolette felt like your matchup was good with the opponent. And that was the uniqueness of playing in a team like that. So the depth, you're talking about what you have in your second pairing, depending on what I like about that group is they can play really key to the defensive shutdown component, but they also have an offensive output that exists there. So I think, it's going to be interesting to see the chemistry that develops when everybody is healthy. I want to see the dynamic and the chemistry between all 6D and how they fall in, because you never know. There could be something up the coaching staff sleeve to mix up. Maybe put a guy on his offhand. You never know what may be available, and you have to really platoon a lot of guys. And so they may go the experiment route, and this is one of the things that happened in 06. Laviolette, towards the last 3 weeks of the season, actually didn't play normal pairings. He started to see it in the case that we may have an injury back there. He wanted to see who is an absolute dog of a pairing and who he might be surprised by.
It's funny sorting that 06 team by height and weight. 7 of the biggest 8 guys were D, like just a big, sturdy D core you guys had. Commodore, Wallin.
You played heavy.
Tverdovsky, just a large group.
Actually, Tverdovsky didn't actually even play that year.
Oh, did he not? Yeah,
he was
Hedekin.
I think he got one game as we dressed. I think in one game in the Stanley Cup we could dress 7D, but other than that, it was the 6 guys I mentioned.
Yeah, a lot of big dudes. So, what was your experience over your career in seeing dressing rooms change when they have guys added or taken away? You know, it has to be, when you add big names, like whether it be Claude Giroux or whatever, it has to change the feel of a dressing room. Mark Giordano, too. Did you have any experiences with that throughout your career?
Yeah, so I'd say that the responsibility falls on the guy that's coming to that locker room.
Do you?
To come in with both the right attitude and the proper presentation. And what I mean by that, so again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but 06, we bring in 2 pretty decent big-name guys. We brought in Mark Recchi and Doug Waite. And as guys who've done something pretty impactful to that stage, you thought to yourself, well, this is gonna upset the apple cart. The balance of this locker room is gonna change. The truth is, it didn't, because Doug Waite and Mark Recchi came in as pure pros, showed a giant smile on their face. They walked in. They were very kind of accommodating and great with everybody. Immediately meshed with our lineup. And the truth is, you're almost judgmentally in a place as a guy that has been there previous, seeing how a guy is in terms of how he enters this locker room. Is he happy to be there? Did he want to be part of this trade? These guys came in and presented a great attitude. And I think the truth is Giordano already did himself a good service by saying what he said in the media, wanting to go back to the town and play for his childhood favorite team. And that is heard and seen by everybody in that locker room. So they'll welcome him with open arms. And I don't imagine that in his life experience, he doesn't already know that the onus is on him to not only integrate himself on the ice, but off the ice.
Want to ask you about the Boston Bruins and what has made our producer Sammy McKee awfully nervous is Lindholm going to the Boston Bruins and envisioning the Leafs and Boston playing in the first round. It's one thing to get a first and second rounder for a Lindholm if you're Pat Verbeek in Anaheim, but it's another thing to go and replace his 24 minutes a night. And I'm thinking at 6.5, I don't know, maybe he should have kept him.
You talking about Anaheim?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I listened to Lindholm in an interview yesterday. Was he on? I don't know if it was Turner that did the interview, and they had a pretty transparent interview. He talked about the fact that he wanted to be in Boston. He wanted to be in that market. So what we don't know happens in behind closed doors. If he's made it very clear that he's not going to be sticking around. So, I mean, Pat Verbeek may have had a clearer picture on what is and what was or what wasn't going to evolve over the summer or in the future. I think that Anaheim's right, that you've got a great core group of young guys. It doesn't mean just because you've acquired a first and second that you have to hold on to them. I think there's going to be a good number of teams looking to get draft picks back come this summer. And And if you have a ton, I mean, it's still a commodity to be had. Lindholm, for me, I think is a bit of a shocker. Like, I thought the whole Boston, how they approached it, in signing DeBrusk, I thought immediately that was a sign to me that this was a sign and trade. Like, it was over with. They're gone. He's going to be moved on. The fact that he stayed was a shocker. For Lindholm to come in and play in Boston is a shocker, because look at the competition in the East right now. There's going to be 7 of the 8 teams that make the Stanley Cup playoffs in the East that honestly think they're going to they have a chance of winning the Cup. 3 teams are going to be eliminated in the first round easily, between Pitt, Boston, Toronto, 2 teams in Florida, Carolina, and I'm missing one. But
New York.
That's New York Rangers. Yeah, this is the most competitive playoffs coming in this far out that I could ever imagine. I'm like, there's going to be some GMs that are having some sleepless nights over the way this season's going to end and how you even position yourself and hoping you get home ice. So Boston took a pretty big, keeping DeBrusk and bringing Lindholm is a pretty big move. But, I mean, these teams in the East, if they really honestly think that they got a full shot at winning the Cup, I mean, I want to know what leads them to believe this.
Well, before we let you go, I want to get your take on the West. You know, looking at that group of teams, man, it could be anyone in there right now. Dallas, Nashville, Vegas, Winnipeg, Vancouver, so many teams kind of buzzing around there. Is there any teams in that group that you think are more or less legit than the others? Like this Vegas team, they might miss the playoffs, Wardo.
That's the head scratcher. I think that was
Right.
the one that stood out to me, is that I think we came into the season thinking it was Colorado, and then maybe Vegas was going to come in, and then was it not a foregone conclusion? Eichel gets acquired, and here we are. I mean, of course they're going to find some traction here. They've lost their identity. I mean, I know they've had to deal with injuries, but there's something that's completely off there in Colorado. I honestly got to tell you, the crazy part for me, and I'm going to correlate this with the Fleury trade, I think Colorado clearly is right in the forefront. But the fact that Fleury went and decided to go to Minnesota, when you hear that Fleury turned down an opportunity to go to the Washington Capitals, I think there's some validity to it. If you look at the East, you're like, oh, that's packed. If I want to go to the Stanley Cup Finals, I think my odds are better in the West. And he goes to Minnie. I think there's a lot of really quality teams in the West, but not a ton of front runners. So when you're asking me, I'm kind of hinging right now on Nashville. I mean, we saw how Nashville competed with Toronto on Saturday and the score. I think the only thing for me, where you say pick a team, Nashville for me, I think there's some inconsistencies. They can have like 3 really good games and like a dog. And I don't think they can have that clearly happen come playoff times. They have to button that up somehow.
Quickly before we let you go, can Calgary beat Colorado?
I do believe they can. I feel like
Me too.
Okay, I believe Colorado's going to win it. But when you ask the question, do I believe there's a team? I do believe Calgary is, because it's the war of attrition, wear you down to the playoffs. By the time Calgary and Colorado meet, I think there's a legitimate chance that there's an impact made by Calgary. And we all know Calgary is such a tough place to play in. That barn is tough. That's a big, heavy team, and I think they can compete with what Colorado brings to the table. The
Daryl Sutter effect. Hey, Wardo.
Well, here's the thing, though. They just can't have Markstrom handle the puck. If anybody saw him on Saturday night, Markstrom's got to stay in his nut.
He's not the only one around the league, apparently.
I love they made LaBarbera come out and talk to the media after that. That was really enjoyable.
Wardo, really appreciate your time. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, guys.
Aaron Ward, former NHLer, currently working on NHL player and puck tracking technologue. So I know we got to go to break soon here, and we got to give away Leaf tickets. Are we going to do that after the break or before the break?
Whatever you want. What do you got something?
Well, yeah. My good friend here, JB, had either a story coming out or a theory right now on who the Leafs could match up with best in the playoffs, coming off our conversation with Aaron Ward.
Yeah, you want that now?
Well, what do you think?
Let's save it.
Good time, or you want to save it?
I got something to say. I need time. I need to stretch my legs on this one. I don't think I have time.
Okay,
for our
all
next
right.
break.
I was going to put you on the spot.
Well, I like that Nashville team when they played the Leafs on Saturday night. I thought
Nashville. Get out of here.
I thought they
Nashville.
looked like a playoff team.
I watched them at the beginning of the year play the Leafs, and I'm like,
They suck.
they stunk.
They were horrible that game.
And Ryan Johansson was horrible.
Yeah,
Matt
Johansson,
Duchene
their best
was
players, not
horrible.
enough for me.
And now they've turned it right around. But they
Well,
play
Yossi is unreal.
they play heavy.
Yeah, and they got
And they beat up the Leafs.
That Ekholm-
Physically, they Leafs could not go shoulder to shoulder with Nashville.
and Ekholm was yelling in Matthews' ear the whole night. That guy just seems perpetually pissed off.
Yeah,
like-
Tanner Jeannot is no
Like-
joke.
And last night,
They like that Trennan.
like Lyubushkin goes, he gets a chance to run
He's
one
gonna
guy
murder
again.
someone if he ever times
I really
it
hope he
right.
does.
I mean, he had Jason Robertson pretty good, but he,
Outside of that, though,
Yeah.
that's a no hitter last night. That's
Yeah.
not a playoff.
No-hitter.
That's not a playoff. That's not a Nashville game.
it's not for lack of effort on Lyubushkin's part because he takes some serious runs.
A no-hitter. Never heard that before. Kemper.
Yes,
It's pretty good.
and we do know that one's coming on Sunday
Oh, that's a hitter.
for the Leafs.
That's gonna be a hitter.
So that's
I am dying to see that hockey.
I can't
game.
Florida
Florida
I'm in the
Leafs,
barn.
like this is it.
So, I guess quickly before we go here, we could have a bigger conversation about this tomorrow. But you go Shalgren in Montreal, and then Mrazek on Sunday against.
I think
you
do.
have to.
I think you do.
right.
You have to. If
The only
there's
reason not is Hockey Night in Canada, Montreal Canadiens.
Nobody cares.
You want to put
nobody cares.
Schnellgren in net?
Yeah, I mean,
What's I know.
Montreal's done. So this is all about now. Mrazek feels good.
Where's Jack at?
Get another practice in, and get him ready for a very big test against Florida.
Oh, boy. Mrazek against Florida. That's
Florida
just
scores
all the time.
4 goals per hockey match,
score
which
every
is absurd.
That's gonna be and that you go back to your
Peter
theory,
Mrazek going to be looking like Denny Lemieux in Slapshot.
and to go back to your theory about Mrazek in front of the home crowd, could go south with Florida coming into the building.
If by chance, forget it. I won't say it. We'll pick up that conversation on tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's
All right.
focus on.
I'll give away some tickets.
Give
here.
away tickets now or after the break.
I'll do it now.
Tickets.
I'll do it now.
Okay, let's do it.
So we're giving away the pair of tickets for March 31st against Winnipeg. The big punch up down at the Scotiabank Arena. It's supposed to be all the big fights. All you have to do is download Wednesday and Thursday's episode of Real Kyper and Bourne and listen for the different code words that will be placed in the podcast. Then text each code word to 59590 and you'll be entered for a chance to win. Each code word counts as an entry and the winner will be selected on Friday.
Great job, Sammy. What percentage chance Spezza Pionk fight? Think Pionk's mad. He got kneed in the brain. He's going to look for revenge? 10%?
I
9?
think it's past now. I don't know.
I
I
guarantee-
cannot see Jason Spezza holding any grudge at all.
Spezza's got no grudge to hold. I wonder if Pionk's
Call
like,
up Punchy Douglas for that game.
No.
Sammy and I have nicknamed
Yeah.
old Curtis Punchy Douglas, and
Call
we
up
want him to come
Punchy.
up.
Winnipeg still thinks they're in it, boys, too. They're not going to go out there and just take matters in their own hands. They think they can still make the playoffs.
Do you?
No, I think Vancouver and Winnipeg are
Vancouver too. Done?
on the outside looking in. But again, if Dallas takes command of their games in hand, it could be Vegas
This is where
on the outside.
I find it hard to be an on-air personality because if it was just you and I sitting around, I'd go, Dallas sucks. I don't know if it's Dallas. Dallas is going to make playoffs.
Did you see
But I'm not supposed to
Vegas'
do that on the air. I'm
goaltending right
supposed
now?
to be more logical than that and say they're actually pretty good. They have some talent.
No, that's my effect on you.
Yeah,
You get
they
to say
suck.
it.
Get out of
You
here,
get to
Dallas.
say how you feel on air.
It gets like they got no chance. No chance of winning a Stanley Cup.
We'll ask Brian Boucher, former NHL goalie, hockey analyst with ESPN. He's going to come up after the break, and we'll get into a little bit more of Dadonov. Dadonov?
Dadonov?
Dadonov.
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 Does it Dantonov?
See what happens when you don't get traded? Nobody has any respect to learn your name.
Oh, I'm dying.
I want to get into a little bit more because Ottawa is actually getting blamed here.
I don't
And
know how that's
we've
possible.
had this discussion.
It's ridiculous.
But we'll dive in deeper because I'm starting to hear that. We know he's playing tonight. That's been reported.
I mean, I kind of feel bad for him. How do you give your best effort when no one wants you there.
Yeah, I got a bigger picture on this whole mess after the break.
You know stuff?
No, it's not that I know stuff.
Okay.
I just I think the NHL. I think everybody's got to clean this mess up once and for all.
Yeah.
On a bigger scale. So that's what I want to get into when we come up after the
Tons
break.
of stuff coming.
All right, you're listening to Real Kyper and Bourne, show 118. We've really done 118 of these things?
I don't
you
know.
poor people. See you after
Thanks
the break.
for being there.
Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Can't wait to get into your theory on what team gives the Leafs the best chance to get out of the first round.
Yeah, Columbus gets real hot and gets in.
Now, have you thought this thing through?
I have. I got some analytic backup for my theories today, which you'll love.
It is tightening up, though. Boston now.
Look at the division. The Leafs in second. They passed Tampa Bay. Boston right on the heels, 1 point back at Tampa Bay. Like, it's tight.
All right, let's welcome in Brian Boucher. Maybe he can answer a few things, including like what is going on, Bouch, with your goalie union? Because I'm seeing some teams right now that we think are favored, yet maybe a couple questionable positions in net on a few here. What's your overall theory watching Fleury go to Minnesota and other teams saying, we're better off with our own than trading for another goalie?
Well, okay, so the Fleury situation kind of surprised me a little bit. From what I had heard, Fleury was going to stand pat in Chicago, and it sounded like he wanted to play next year, so I didn't really give much thought to it. But I got to commend Liljegren for, having his finger on the pulse here. I think you would probably agree with me on this, Kyper, that like Billy is one of those guys that is just he's like a hockey guy, right? Like he's one of those locker room guys that just has a feel for the game. I don't know if you can quantify it with advanced numbers or analytics or anything like that. I think he's got a lot of feel, and I think he had a feel on this one that he could make an improvement not only in goal but on the back end, and with a guy like Delorier, and that would help his team. And by getting a guy like Marc-Andre Fleury, I just thought it was a great move. I mean, you get a guy that has experience. He's probably not going to be the guy that plays every game. I wouldn't be surprised if they share the net in the playoffs. But I don't think Billy Guerin cares. I think as long as they win and they can find a way. I thought it was an aggressive move, but a real astute move on his part. I didn't see it coming, and I think it puts Minnesota, for me, in another tier right now, because before I was just thinking about Colorado and Calgary in the West, and that's it. Everybody else was kind of like in another tier below, but now I'm kind of excited for Minnesota and the moves that they made. I don't know what other teams you're referring to with my goalie union. Where do you want to go with that?
I can't recall so many teams having, and we include Toronto here with Jack Campbell out. I in all the years I've covered and been a part of the NHL, I can't recall so many teams having question marks in that.
Yeah.
Toronto.
I think of like Washington, right? I mean,
do you have a theory behind it at all, or is it just is there a theory behind there, Bouch, or is it just a lull in the position? That's
a great question. I feel like there was a time back, like when I played, in the 90s and early 2000s, it felt like there was always a clear-cut number one on a team, right? Like, you had your Dominic Hasek's, you had Marty Brodeur, you had Patrick Waugh, Cujo. It just felt like teams had an established number one. And you're right. I think now there's probably there's probably better goaltenders now today than there ever was, but it's like they're all kind of like equal. And so it's hard to distinguish which guy is better than the other. And at times one can play well, can get hot, and at times another can get hot. And maybe that clouds your judgment on what you really have. I think Washington's goaltending is probably not going to be good enough to get them out of the first round. I think that's easy to say. I'm still concerned. I talked to you guys earlier this year. I'm still very concerned about Toronto. I don't know if Jack Campbell is going to be able to come. Hopefully this break and this kind of like reset and getting back from this injury will do a world of good. But I can tell you it's hard to catch a moving train when you jump on it. And then who knows with the other guys. I mean, it's it's a tough thing, you know, and if you don't have a guy that you can really rely on, that's the difference between winning and losing. You look at the East, and I could make a case for any team winning a series in the East, and it could all come down to goaltending.
Well, that's, I want to get more into the idea of the catching a moving train thing. And if you're Petr Mrazek, a guy who was brought in here to share the crease with Jack Campbell, this was supposed to be a 1A, 1B, 50 games and 32 games at least type situation. Is there time, and is it possible to salvage your game when you've had a season like Mrazek, when it's all just gone wrong? Puts a pretty decent performance together last night. Is there enough time for this guy to be someone who can help the Leafs as opposed to being just a risk and a concern when they get into a playoff series?
Yes, there's plenty of time. And
Okay.
Case in point, go back to 2010. When I was in Philadelphia that year, we used like 92 goaltenders that year. Like, it was out of control. And myself and Michael Layton were the last two standing in the end, and I was garbage all year, and I seemed to find my game after Layton got hurt with about, say, 13 games left in the year, and I finally felt comfortable right as we got down to the end of the season. Toronto's making the playoffs, so there's no question about that. For Mrazek, I think he has plenty of time to sort things out. I think their team has plenty of time to sort things out 5-on-5 defensively, so they can make sure that their goaltender feels a lot better about themselves. Their specialty teams are terrific. Like, they've got pieces to win. There's no question they can win. It's the one thing that's hanging over them is the goaltending. If the goaltending can just be solid, not cost you games, you don't have to steal games, I don't think. I think if you do that, you have a chance. And I think Mrazek has plenty of time to salvage this season. If you finish the last 10 games on a heater, and you go into the playoffs with that confidence, everything else is forgotten. And that's what he has to work his way to right now. It'd be great if he could do it, because I know that there's always that redemption feeling as a goaltender, especially when things go bad. You'd love to just, shove it in people's faces, and I'm sure he's got a lot of that going on right now that he wants to prove people wrong.
We're talking to Brian Boucher, former NHL goalie, hockey analyst for ESPN, currently in Raleigh, getting ready for Dallas and Colorado, Carolina. Boosh, before we get into that game, I just want to talk about that personal experience that you had with 10, 13 games to go. Was it a physical thing, a mental thing? Was it a moment, a practice that turned it around for you? And we're just thinking in Petr Mrazek's case, how much time does he need to maybe turn this thing around?
I think a little bit of it is physical at the start. Like, if you haven't played much, you got to get used to, getting your body ready to play back-to-backs and 3 and 4 and stuff like that, as opposed to just being the backup, right? So, yeah, there's a little bit of that, but that you can get that figured out pretty quickly. I think it's the mental side where the pressure that you feel, to perform and to not be the guy that is a story on the negative side of things. That's where you got to get through it. And really how you get through it is have a performance where you are a difference maker in the game, and that can turn the tide just like that, because, he should feel very confident in his team that they can score goals, right? I mean, that's not a question. If they can defend good enough that he can be solid in there and has that one performance, that can be the one moment that you snap right out of it and it catapults you in a different direction. And, that's what he has to hope for. Now, it can also go the other way. If he has a performance that turns into a real stinker, and then all of a sudden now you're on the wrong side of it, and it steamrolls the other way, that can be bad too. So, but I think right now his mindset just has to be, park everything that was in the past and just, be solid. And if you have that performance, build off of it day after day. And then, your confidence can grow quickly in this time of year, because this is the best time of year. I mean, all the games mean something. You get into the playoffs, it's springtime. The excitement's there. Everybody's on the same page. It's not like you're playing in October where guys are looking for points and, you might get some loose nights defensively. Everybody's going to be on the same page. You're going to get the best effort from everybody in front of you. Do your job. If you do that, then you can build off of that.
Bush, at the start of the Leaf season, they did an all or nothing series for Amazon, and it was nothing. But they did all or nothing, and in that show, there's a scene where Sheldon Keefe is complaining about the goaltending. The goalie coach says, "Well, it was tipped," and Sheldon goes, "Well, can he stop one that's tipped?" And, we've watched the Leafs goaltenders give up tipped pucks. Their D is not great at controlling sticks. But how much blame can we give goaltenders? How much can we expect them to stop pucks that get redirected on the way to the net?
That one to me is laughable. That's just, you get some guys that just say, hey, just stop the puck.
Right.
You know what I mean? They don't care. They just stop the puck. At the end of the day, how many times I heard that in my life? and there are times where it's like, you're right. Just stop the puck. But on redirects, come on, give me a break. You can, as a goalie, you can read some tips. Like if it's a high tip, those shot passes to the guy in the slot. You know how to play those, right? You don't overslide. You got to anticipate that. But sometimes when it hits a stick coming in, there's no way you can anticipate that. And a lot of it is just about if you're in the right position and the puck hits you, then then that's a plus. And if some nights they just go through you, and sometimes what happens is those tips they stop you from being able to control the rebound, and it leads to a second chance opportunity, and that's when it gets tough. So yeah, if you're a defender, you got to do a better job. Either get in the shooting lanes and make sure those pucks don't get through from the start, or start getting some sticks so that those redirects don't happen.
We mentioned you're in Raleigh for Dallas, Carolina. Freddie Anderson, Vezina, legit talk?
I got to think so. A goals against average of, just over 2, 31 wins, almost a 93% save percentage. I think I told you earlier this year, I'm always been a big Freddie Anderson fan. He's done a terrific job here. And, Carolina does a good job. Defending-wise, they defend by having the puck, and they spend a lot of time in the offensive zone. So that's why they're the best team defensively. But Anderson has been a major upgrade for their team this year. And if you ask Rod Brind'Amour that, he's not afraid to admit to that, and I totally agree. And I think Ranta's been good when he's been called upon, too. I've never been a huge Ranta guy. He always got hurt at the wrong time, and when an opportunity from the play, he never could really be counted on. But this year he's been very solid. They've been a terrific tandem, and I think Anderson's a big part of their success this year because I think he just calms everything down back there.
Boosh, have a great call. Thanks for doing this for us.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys, take care.
Brian Boucher, ESPN. Dallas and Carolina tonight. We expect Max Domi to make his debut, too, with Carolina Hurricanes. And I think if he's a good student and he listens to Rod Brind'Amour, he's got a chance to turn his career around.
Well, it can be career defining, right? At the age he is and going to the situation he's going, it can really, teams can look at what he's done in Carolina and go, okay, this guy can do it. He's coachable. He's, it's a good spot for him. So I'm excited to see how that plays out.
Okay,
against Bourne's favorite team in the NHL, the Dallas Stars.
You know what? The best part is there are no Stars fans. They don't exist. No one listening to this is like, you savaged the Stars. None.
So if I would have told you that Dallas had a legitimate shot at making the playoffs and knocking Vegas out, if I would have told you that 6 weeks ago,
probably would have looked at you funny.
Yeah,
but I do that anyway. So
yeah. And that's where they're at.
They're going to make the playoffs. It looks like statistically they're going to find their way in.
All right, Dadonov.
Nice.
Back and
really
playing with Vegas. Now,
boy, that's awkward.
I think
just walking in the room carrying your bag.
I think the word is that they're not going to trade his rights. He's staying with the team the rest of the season.
I imagine if that's true, and I'm sure it is, it's because there wasn't a fit out there with another team. Like no one wanted to do that.
I think they've tried. I think they've knocked, say, on the door of Arizona. And even if you had a first-round pick to offer them, you still have to get an owner that commits to $6.5 million cash
next year
for a guy. No, actually $7 million. There's the remainder of his contract this year. Plus 6.5.
Say, boss, we can buy a first rounder for $7 million.
Yeah.
And boss goes,
No.
We're good.
And in theory, I think Toronto gave up a first rounder for Marleau to go to Carolina,
Yeah.
and that was to pick up $4 million.
I was actually thinking with Toronto, if they're in LTIR, I was like, could they add him? But no, it doesn't work.
So
Because then you
if-
got to do it next year.
If it's a first rounder for $4 million for Marleau, shouldn't $7 million
be a
be
first
worth
and a half?
first and
Second
a
or something,
third?
yeah. And if you're Vegas, you're like, are we trading that
Yeah.
for 6 weeks of hockey here when it
Yeah.
doesn't look like we're very good?
So
That Marleau pick, just as an aside, turned into Seth Jarvis. He's a good player for the
Yes.
Carolina Hurricanes.
yes.
Anyways, continue.
So I'm just watching this whole thing kind of, and it's exactly what we said. Everybody's pointing the finger, and people want to point the finger at Ottawa, which is just crazy to me. Absolutely crazy. The feeling that Vegas didn't know. Now there's word that that they did talk to Dadonov about waiving his
To Anaheim?
Anaheim
No.
prior
Oh, prior to.
prior to.
Which would mean they knew he
Yes.
had it.
Yes.
Ooh, that would be incriminating.
And he tried to explain to them, I don't want to go. My kids are in school. There's the tax implications.
Yeah.
There's the fact that they are a team that's just going to trade me next year, that I won't stay, and I'd rather not. So I'm watching this whole thing, and I just think with everything that's gone on in the last 24, 48 hours, this is now the time where the league or the Players Association or somebody has to step up and say, enough. No more of this. Essentially what it is circumventing the salary cap for stashing players.
Oh, yeah.
And it's got to stop. It just,
I like the trading of the Kessler contract in this situation.
all of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, you cannot tell players who would be otherwise healthy
Mm-hmm.
to sit on the sidelines.
Well, and that would be Dadonov if he got traded now. He would not play for the rest of the year.
I think it's more speaking to perhaps Stone
Oh,
and
that
Martinez.
stuff. I see. Okay.
or Kucherov in Tampa Bay
Mm-hmm.
or Hossa in Chicago, where you cannot go and tell players who would be otherwise healthy to sit on the sidelines and wait. I don't,
Right.
You got to stop that. If you are healthy and you're deemed ready to play,
Mm-hmm.
then you cannot be on long-term IR.
Well, you know what's really interesting to me is all of this LTIR stuff was always with the assumption that there was a doctor who would say, yeah, this guy's hurt enough to say that he's hurt and not able to play. It sounds like Martinez is ready to play. Like, if he is ready to play and there's no doctor who says he's not ready to play, what do? You have to take him off LTIR. They don't have room. They're not cap compliant as a team.
Well, and
What
this
becomes of a team
this
then?
is what
they lose
well,
picks?
the one thing is they never wavered in Tampa Bay with Kucherov, right? He
No,
was always
he was
going to
hurt
stay on there.
Even when he was practicing.
But this one's a little different in Vegas
It is different.
because they thought that they moved the $5 million, and the feeling was that you were going to get either Martinez or Stone back.
Yeah, and they
Early.
can't get Stone back.
Were you
Without
gonna-
moving
you-
more.
You were going to get one of them for sure.
Yeah.
So which means that if Dadonov's contract's back, which it is,
Mhm.
now he can't play. So which one was it? Was he legitimately hurt or was he ready to play?
It's really exposed their manipulation of LTIR.
Which is cap circumvention.
And it's funny that there's no clear-cut punishment for that because they look like a team who now would be eligible for some punishment.
So I just think that there should be an investigation in the
Mhm.
last little while, including pulling up daily reports. There's medical reports.
Yeah.
Trainers have medical daily reports.
What's the doc saying on Alec Martinez? Mark Stone.
Exactly. So was there documentation from a trainer that said, hey, Mark's skating, He handled physical checks today in practice. He should be ready to go next week or 2 weeks. His timeline's 2 weeks.
Right.
Because the timeline for him a month ago was end of the season.
It's like, it was funny that they were like, he's going to be better on April 29th. And it was like, wait.
So go back and find those. And if they did try to manipulate it and bring him back early, then you got to fix this problem right away. You cannot keep telling people that have money in the NHL to try to keep up with the Joneses by using long-term IR to stack your roster at the end of the year.
Isn't there an easy solution for this and just do the NBA luxury tax?
Yeah. Yes, there is. If you want to spend over the cap, go ahead, but you're going to have to pay dollar for dollar to the
Why is Gary so obsessed with the hard cap? Like, it's not that much parity.
Because he's worried about Arizona.
Oh, to hell with Arizona.
God, Kyper,
Yeah, I'm telling you. He wants everybody equal. The owners wanted everybody equal, which is crazy to ask the New York Yankees to ask.
But every team that makes the most money in all other sports gets to spend the money. You know, you look at soccer, you look at basketball, you look at, football has a weird cap thing, baseball. If you make money, you get to spend it. It's just make a salary. They'll never get rid of the salary cap, but luxury tax is a good sort of.
I agree with that, and I think it's a good way to bring more money into the system for the league. Like, hey, if the Leafs want to spend dollar for dollar and put it back into the pool,
great.
I think everyone would like that. Everyone. So I agree with you that LTIR and that form of cap circumvention needs clarity.
Yeah.
There's also the central registry thing where it sounds like Ottawa either didn't send over the list. No. I know it's not Ottawa's fault, but they either didn't send something, or it wasn't requested, or they sent the wrong year, or whatever. It just sounds so small potatoes of a league that there was no official way for the list to move and be filed and stored, and that has to get fixed as well.
And the theory is that Central Registry doesn't have a list of the teams that are excluded because the players don't want that out.
Okay. Well, we can't have this happen again. So sorry that you don't want leaks, but
you won't get an argument out of me on that.
Right. I think that needs to be clarified as well.
But
I don't know. That's another point I remember now.
Is anybody even willing to investigate this? This is, to me, this is something that should be investigated. Are they going to look into it? Or are we going to still play all these stupid games again this time next year?
Yeah, I don't know. It seems to me like we need some answers on how this went down. Did someone do something intentionally? Was this truly just clerical errors? It seems to me like there was some fudging on Vegas's part about what they knew, when they knew it. When did you know what you knew?
From the Players Association point of view, they need to stand up and they got to say, if my player is healthy and ready to go, you don't have the right to sit him out.
Because you can't manage a salary cap because you're trying to.
Yeah, if you want to sit him out because you think he's no good, then that's fine. But he's not doing it on long-term IR.
Right.
You get him off long-term IR. You want to make him a healthy scratch. That's no problem at all.
It was a healthy scratch night, Sean Monahan. So I throw that in there. Anyway.
But because now you're messing with him. You're messing with his career games.
Yeah.
You're messing with his, maybe he's going for
your
milestones.
Ability to go for arbitration when you say, well, he only scored 18 last year. It's like, well, they kept me out for 7 games because they.
Okay. The other thing, too, is, again, when you're manipulating the cap like this, like, think about now a Colorado who could see Dallas or Vegas in the first round.
Suddenly, Vegas has no issues if they get in. They can play all their guys.
Like, Vegas is a very dangerous team. Game 1.
Oh, brutal! They get Leonard back, and all of a sudden it's Stone and it's Martinez.
Because you
Dadonov's in
because you had a chance to circumvent the salary cap. You're in, and the team that we're supposed to play is out. So they should be up in arms. They should be asking for an investigation.
Actually,
on
think
this.
about this. Like, Dadonov is now an asset for them. Like, Vegas is better with Dadonov than without him. Now they have him. If they get in, Their team is even stronger for not having had to move that piece out.
There's so many different ways that you can look at this and say this is just against the integrity of the game.
I agree. Totally agree.
But you think we'll see an investigation in this?
This is a real Kyper and Bourne call to arms for the league. What's going on here? We want answers.
All right, that's my my beef on that.
All right, now I'm going to do my thing about who the Leafs want to play in the first round. We talked about it the other day about who was going to be. Remember, we said Boston was sneaking up on them. Would they want Boston?
Lurking.
And I was saying, of course, you'd want Boston because they're just not as good. I did some looking into this. Boston, very good.
Yeah.
Very good, and actually not the team you want. I think the Leafs want Tampa. And I know we've said on this show the complete opposite. We thought Florida with the goaltending, whatever. Are we sure that Tampa Bay is that?
Is that because they've hit a bit of a skid right now,
They
too?
have hit a skid. They've lost 5 of their last 7 games. They've only won, I want to say 5 or 6 times in the month of March, which they've played 11 times. But, you know, what made this Tampa team so good for years was they scored, right? They scored and they scored. And, like, if you think of the Leafs defense against Tampa's offense, you were terrified. 4 years ago, going back 4 years, all my stats on Tampa, they were first in the league in goals, then 8th. This year, they're 9th. And in expected goals, they're outside the top 10 by a good deal. So they don't score a whole bunch. But, looking back at last year, their power play really solved a lot of problems for them. 4 years again for Tampa going back. First in the league, 5th in the league, 9th in the league. They're 15th in the league this year, their power play. They're middle of the pack on the power play. So this team doesn't score like they used to score. But what changed last year and why they still won a cup, even though their offense is drying up, they defended. They went from being 8th in the league in goals against to 8th. They were 6th last year. They got better. This year, they're outside of the top 10 goals against. They give up goals. They don't score like they used to. Their penalty kill has dropped from 4 years ago. It's first in the league. They're 15th in penalty kill. This team, looking at this team, I'm not sure that they're as good as they've been. I understand that their decor is still their decor. I understand that Vasilevsky is still Vasilevsky.
And Hedman's still Hedman.
Yes.
And Kucherov still looks pretty good.
But when they had those guys and you used to look at the numbers, it was like, wow, this team is a powerhouse. This team is not the powerhouse they have been through 60 games, statistically.
So maybe that's why they went out and got Hagel and Nick Paul.
I totally agree.
And
now it could change.
Give that a couple of weeks.
You're right. That's a really, really good point. Is they did get a lot better.
That's a huge change in
That's
not
a really
being
good point.
Stale on those numbers that you're talking about.
Yep. Yeah, they're going to get better because Paul can score and Hagel can score.
Listen, Hagel was a shock to all of us.
Yeah.
Come on.
That was a big one.
The defending 2-time Stanley Cup champion goes in and gives up a couple of first rounders.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
No, I know. And that maybe that's the difference. The problem is
he looks like Braden Point. Doesn't play like
Hagel?
him, but he's kind of that diminutive, kind of got that like hockey face to him. He really looks very similar.
So then looking around the division and looking at their numbers, Boston is the best in the NHL in terms of expected goals percentage. They are the best team in hockey in terms of who's supposed to score versus how often they get scored on. They're really, really good. And all the numbers are good. The best team, though, in basically every category is Florida. Boston and Florida, the 2 best teams in the league. Statistically, Tampa is not near them. Toronto's somewhere in the middle, 4th, 5th best in the NHL.
I have a funny feeling Sammy disagrees with you and says you'll take your chances with Florida before Tampa Bay.
Those are some pretty compelling points.
But you know what? Kyper makes a good point too.
I know.
If the scoring is a problem,
almost like you guys know a lot about hockey.
If they don't score as much, and then they add 2 guys in Paul and Hagel who give them that third line, and they suddenly score again.
Yeah.
I don't like any of these teams. They're all good.
For Toronto.
It's bad.
The Eastern Conference is stacked. We used to talk about how the big bad West and all those teams out there. Like
it's not even the East; it's the Atlantic.
The East is pretty good.
Carolina's really good, and
Pittsburgh's really good.
Yeah,
Pittsburgh's ahead of the Leafs.
Good.
I know
they're ahead of the Leafs.
Getting Raquel and
they're
hurt.
really sneaky good. Pittsburgh.
Rangers are the one I don't believe in a whole lot.
No,
especially with the
that's been
goaltending
consistent
fading.
with needing Shesterkin or go home.
But I'm just looking at the league by point percentage.
How do you think Ovechkin felt not seeing a goalie traded?
I don't know. but I don't really know what Ovechkin's thinking right now.
Okay. Bad example. Bad
He hasn't
example.
thought about hockey.
John Carlson. How'd John Carlson
Backstrom?
feel? Yeah.
Sorry.
But yeah, like I'm just looking at it here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 7 of the top 10 by points percentage are in the East.
How about
Goaltending for
Ekblad?
Florida, goaltending, Ekblad, high ankle sprain.
Oof,
Those things could take 6.
brutal. I had a high ankle
They could
sprain.
take 6 weeks.
horrible.
They could take 3 months.
6 weeks takes you to game 1 of the playoffs.
You have no idea. And that thing will not feel remotely back to normal again for him till next October.
My understanding is that he should be eligible, not eligible, but able to play physically in playoffs.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's a tough one.
high ankle sprains are awful.
You had
man.
one?
I have had one when I was younger.
Horrible.
It's months
Yeah.
of like,
Actually, when I went to the doctor after it happened, the guy looked at me. He's like, "How old are you?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm 30." He's like, "Yeah, it's probably never be the same."
that's
was
a
like, "You're right."
great Louis C.K. bit. Unfortunately, he's not someone we're allowed to
Yeah.
talk about anymore,
He is-
but incurable crappy ankle.
Yeah, that's I have it.
Somebody called
Yeah,
it?
well, with some curse words, but it's like
I have it.
the doctor says, yeah, now you just do 30 minutes of stretching a day. And he goes, how long till it's better? And he goes, no,
Never.
you just do that now. That's just a thing you do. You got to stretch your
One
ankle. You're
more
old.
for Florida for me. Andrew Burnett. Trying to take a team that's got a ton of pressure on him, made all these changes too. You know, trying to win a Stanley Cup right now.
Mm-hmm.
Inexperienced, matching lines, motivation could come into play here.
How
for
about
Florida?
the fact that they should scratch your physicality itch as
Yes.
a playoff team goes? Like, they will happily fight your face. And we have seen people's faces get fought all around all year long by this
When the
hockey
Leafs
team.
call up Punchy, we'll be
I'm
fine.
gonna go back and watch that first round, Tampa Bay and Florida.
Oh my
just
God.
to warm up.
So remember this about this series. Florida handed it to Tampa in that first round
And
last
Bennett.
year, but Tampa Bay's power play
Yes.
was ruthless.
No, Kucherov was ruthless.
Kucherov, yeah, game 1, I think he had 2-1, just like fake dishes from the half wall. You got that one-time snapper thing. But yeah, so their power play was so good last year, it pushed them past Florida. They may not have that.
Yeah. I just remember that because last year we were in the pandemic when the playoffs started with the no fans here, and we hadn't watched any hockey games with fans.
I
And I
know.
remember we heard like the first opening
Florida,
night.
Tampa,
Florida,
fans,
Tampa. It was like,
goals,
oh my
playoff
God.
hockey.
I was like, what am I watching?
It was just
and then
like
it was Leafs Habs. I was trying to stay awake.
going from caffeine to just mainlining hard drugs. It's just intense hockey.
10 games on tap. You got any pick'ems or you got some bets for us?
The Boston Bruins are the favorites against the Tampa Bay Lightning tonight. How about that? So that's where the gamble. Of course, it's in Boston, so there is that little bit of a tweak. So depends where you sit. I just read you all that stuff on Tampa. I really like Boston right now. You get them at about even money. Oh, sorry, Tampa is a tiny bit of a favorite, but minus 105. Boston over Tampa Bay at home tonight. I think Tampa's a wild card team, and we're going to get Florida Tampa round 1. Boston Toronto.
Vancouver Canuck fans were awfully happy last night doing something really rare, and that's beating Colorado at home.
Yeah, never happens.
Never happens. And now they've got Minnesota tonight.
Tough back to back.
But this is kind of it for Vancouver. It's like put up or shut up time. Okay, you're going to get Colorado, Minnesota back to back. Then they've got Vegas 3 times in the next couple weeks. A team they're trying to catch. They got Dallas on Wednesday. Team they're trying to catch. Like the league has said with their schedule, you can get in. You just got to beat the teams ahead of you. So Vancouver probably needs to go. What do they got? 20 games left, something like that. They probably need to go about 15-5. It's not impossible. Call it 14-6.
And it was Halak last night who stood on his head, not Demko.
Why was it Halak? Did they basically think this is an L? We're going to lose this first one, and we'll try to get
whatever
2
it
or 4
was.
points.
It worked.
That's amazing.
They did the reverse Babs. They started the backup in the first half of the back-to-back.
But it also reminds me of when Calgary went into Colorado and they started Vladar instead of Markstrom, as if to say, if we get the win, great. Now when we beat you with our backup, but if we don't, well, we played our backup. It's almost like narrative insurance in a way. I don't know if that was the idea of starting Halak, but So that was a big one. Winnipeg Jets are on the outside looking in. They've got the Ottawa Senators going into Winnipeg. You know, I thought what they did at the deadline was interesting. They move Kopp out. They bring Appleton back, kind of halfway committing to, hey, maybe we'll see if we can sneak into the playoffs, but they kept Stastny. They didn't move. It seems like they want to be competitive. You think that's a fans thing, or?
They sold out the first 10 years, and through this pandemic, they haven't now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big deal.
That's a big deal. So yeah, that's probably part of it. And then the last thing I want to ask you here, before we run out of time, is about the Oilers. What are your thoughts on this team who can't quite catch the Los Angeles Kings, but they're still McDavid, they're still Draisaitl, they're starting to get some goaltending.
And they're going to get Nugent Hopkins back.
Yeah.
And just before he left again to go on IR, I liked that they had, I think, McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nugent Hopkins as a 1-2-3.
Yeah, me
up
too.
The middle.
I think no team has a better chance of getting out of the first round than the Edmonton Oilers. They're almost certainly going to play the Kings in round one. Looking at the East, you don't like anyone's chances against anyone because it's mayhem. Vegas might be the 8 seed, so you don't really want to be the number 1 seed. I think the Oilers have the best chance of seeing the round 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals or playoffs.
Jay Woodcroft and Dave Manson, their contracts run out at the end of the year.
Is that it? Are they still?
They're free agents.
So what happened here? Do you think
The Jaybird.
what kind of boost would they have got? Like, hey, you get the guy's contract that we let go type of thing for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I think it would be a minimal boost, and we'll talk to you at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But if he goes on a nice run with the Edmonton Oilers,
I had Jaybird seeing round 2, and he's going to be asking for some money.
He could be a nice UFA. Forget the players.
You may want to wait and see what he can get out there.
All right, our thanks to Aaron Ward and Brian Boucher. Toronto Maple Leafs, one more day off before they have a very busy weekend. We'll be back here tomorrow to tee it all up for you. On behalf of Derek, Jennifer, Sammy, me and JB, thanks for watching and listening, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Hey PC, I love that every Thursday I get new offers in the PC Optimum app, and they're so easy to load. I simply open my app and find offers on the things I love.